My fiancé planned to move abroad without telling me, forcing me to quit my $400 a year job. So I broke off the engagement, and now she's desperate to reconcile. I'm 33, male, and I've worked relentlessly to build a life I'm proud of. Starting with nothing, I worked my way up to a high-paying job, earning around $400,000 a year, which has allowed me to live comfortably. I've never been one to take success for granted. I've sacrificed weekends, vacations, and a social life to get here. But I've always imagined how much richer life could be with someone by my side. So when I met F 3 years ago, I thought I'd found that someone. F was ambitious, smart, and seemed genuinely supportive of my work. She was in marketing and had mentioned her dreams of working abroad, which I respected. It wasn't my goal, but we talked about it, and she promised she'd be open to building our life here after getting a few years of overseas experience. That compromise felt reasonable. We were engaged within 2 years, and I genuinely thought we were on the same page. Turns out, I was wrong. About 2 months ago, she started bringing up the idea of moving to Europe. It began as casual mentions over dinner or while we were out with friends. She'd say things like, "Wouldn't it be amazing to live in Paris or Rome, even if just for a year?" At first it seemed harmless, but soon these ideas became more frequent and pointed. She'd talk about her connections overseas, how we could start fresh in a more balanced place. When I expressed hesitation, especially since moving would mean leaving behind my job and network, she'd get defensive, accusing me of not supporting her dreams. That's when her visits with her family became more frequent. Her parents lived a couple of hours away, and every time she returned from seeing them, she'd be even more insistent about Europe. She began hinting that I could easily find work anywhere. "You're good at what you do," she'd say, like it was just that easy. The entitlement was astonishing. It wasn't that simple to find another job like mine, and quitting my role would mean giving up years of progress. One weekend, she returned from her parents' place, almost vibrating with intensity. She suggested we move to Paris and acted as though it was something we'd already agreed on. I pushed back, explaining that I had worked too hard to throw away my career, and her reaction shocked me. She acted hurt, as if I'd personally attacked her. After a heated exchange, she dropped the topic. I thought that was the end of it. But that, as I'd soon learn, was just the beginning. About a month later, I was looking for an old email on her laptop, and there it was. A subject line in her inbox that made my heart drop, "Finalizing visa for Paris position." I knew it was wrong to open it, but curiosity and a sinking feeling overcame me. I clicked on it. The emails revealed everything. F had applied to, interviewed for, and accepted a job in Paris. She'd been planning the move for months. Worse, she hadn't mentioned a word to me. Her correspondence with the HR manager even included specific instructions on how she planned to transition to her new life without my knowledge. She painted me as a supportive fiancé who just wasn't in the loop yet. I felt the walls close in around me, and a numb shock settled in. She'd already built her new life without me. That evening, I waited until we were sitting down after dinner. "Is there something you need to tell me?" I asked her, barely keeping the frustration out of my voice. She froze. After a pause, she managed a weak laugh. "What do you mean?" "Your job in Paris. When exactly were you going to tell me?" The color drained from her face. She tried to recover, saying things like, "I wanted to be sure it was real before I brought it up. And I didn't know how to tell you." But the lies were hollow. I'd seen the emails. I knew she'd deliberately kept me out of her plans. She fumbled, trying to act like this was something was planning for both of us, but her story kept falling apart. Finally, she dropped the pretense and admitted that she'd made the decision to move without consulting me. It didn't end there. The next day, I got a call from her parents asking for a family meeting. I went, half expecting them to help FC reason. Instead, I was blindsided. Her father spoke to me like a mentor, launching into how this opportunity was once in a lifetime for F, and how a loving fiancé would support it. Then her mother, with a patronizing tone, suggested that I take a break from work for a few years and join F in Paris. They framed it as though it was a privilege I was being offered, giving up my career for the love of my life. When I argued that my career wasn't something I could abandon, her mother's response stunned me. She shrugged and said, There's more to life than work, as though my years of hard work and dedication meant nothing. Then her father piled on, suggesting I consider buying an apartment in Paris, calling it an investment in the future. I could hardly believe what I was hearing. They wanted me to give up my life here, buy property overseas, and fund F's move, all for a dream that didn't include me. I told them outright that I wasn't interested in making these sacrifices. That was when I noticed the pitying glances they exchanged, as if I were some child who didn't understand true love. F just sat there, silently watching, with a look of smug expectation, like she knew I'd eventually cave. It was clear then, she hadn't planned for a life with me, just for a life that benefited her. I walked out, hardly saying a word. I went home and spent hours thinking about how my life had turned into this nightmare. This woman I'd trusted and loved had built her plans behind my back, prioritizing her own dreams while treating me like an accessory. After a sleepless night, I knew I had to make a decision. The following morning, I called off the engagement. F immediately switched from heartbroken to hostile. She demanded we talk it out like adults, alternating between begging and accusing me of abandoning her. When it became clear I wasn't backing down, she took things a step further, and her entitled behavior escalated to new heights. She tried to guilt-trip me into paying for her moving expenses to Paris, claiming it was the least I could do after leading her on. She implied that my failure to support her dreams justified me funding her move as a form of reparations. It was absurd, but it didn't stop there. She even hinted that she'd get lawyers involved if I didn't make it right. The rumors started soon after. F's family and a handful of our mutual friends began circulating stories about how I was controlling and unsupportive. They painted me as the villain who'd held her back, trapping her in a life that only served my career ambitions. Some of our friends reached out, saying they were shocked at my behavior, while others just stopped talking to me altogether. F wanted everyone to see her as a victim, and she was pulling every trick in the book to get sympathy. But the real shock came when she actually followed through with her lawyer threat. She filed a request for emotional damages against me, claiming that I'd broken off the engagement in a way that had caused her severe distress. I couldn't believe it. My lawyer informed me that she had no real case, but the fact she even tried was staggering. Her entitlement had reached a level I hadn't thought possible. By then, I'd cut off all contact, blocked her number, and communicated only through my attorney. The legal hassle dragged on for weeks, during which F tried to manipulate the narrative further. She spun the story that I'd abandoned her in her time of need, amplifying every detail to make me seem like the bad guy. Meanwhile, she'd continued with her plans, moving to Paris with financial support from her family. Months passed. I focused on work, on rebuilding the life that had been shaken. I found new friends, reconnected with family, and took time to heal. And then, one rainy afternoon, I opened my door to find her standing there, drenched and looking defeated. She started talking about how her life in Paris hadn't turned out the way she'd planned, how her job hadn't been what she'd expected. She hinted at wanting to come back, asking for a second chance. She spoke about learning from mistakes and how we could build from this. I listened, letting her ramble. But as she spoke, all I could see was the entitled woman who'd tried to control my life, who'd plotted behind my back, and only returned when her own plans failed. She was seeking redemption, but only because she had nowhere else to turn. I told her that we were done, and that chapter of my life was closed. She left, defeated, and I haven't seen or heard from her since. In the end, it was a brutal lesson in self-respect. I realized love shouldn't mean sacrificing your own dreams and integrity for someone who only values you as a stepping stone. For anyone out there caught in a relationship that's one-sided, take it from me, walk away. You deserve someone who will meet you halfway, who sees you as an equal partner in building a future, not just a convenient support for their own dreams. It's strange, but there's a kind of peace in standing up for yourself, even if it leaves you alone for a while. Sometimes, the hardest thing is to walk away from what you thought you wanted. But that's exactly what I had to do. I'm back to focusing on my career, my friends, and finding out who I am outside of all this chaos. And who knows? Maybe somewhere down the line, I'll find someone who values partnership the same way I do. But until then, I'm taking things one day at a time. Living my life without compromise or apology.